Hi guys, this is Demon Rants, and today we're doing another film review today because, like I mentioned in the last video, I can't be bothered reviewing that crappy Star Wars: The Last Jedi film. I really hate it. So I thought, why don't I review an actual good movie? And it's a film that I've actually only seen recently, because I actually read about it in a YouTube comment, and I decided to watch the trailer for the film, and I thought it was really funny, and I watched the movie, and I thought it was great, and honestly, it's probably one of my favourite films now, guys, so I'm always going to be watching this one. But yeah, like the title says, the film in question for this review today is The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, directed by Terry Gilliam. And also, new shirt again, guys, you know, kind of another edgy metal shirt that I got as a present. But yeah, and it's actually kind of relevant that it's got the Grim Reaper, or Death, on the cover, because he's in this movie, or as we should say, she is in this movie. So yeah, we got this movie, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Now, a lot of you have never heard of this film because it's quite obscure. Now, the film, unfortunately, it's actually known more for being a box office bomb than the actual film itself, which is honestly really sad. But yeah, so this film was released in, actually it was released in December 1988. But that was only in Germany, but it was basically released in 1989 in every other country, so that's what I'm going to say. So yeah, it was released in 1989, but there was a problem. The film was so expensive to produce that basically I think it's Columbia were behind this film, because it says on the DVD here. They didn't want to put the film in a lot of cinemas, you know, because it was too expensive, too costly, something like that. But yeah, so basically the film was barely shown in cinemas really anywhere, or you know, in America at all. So the film was a colossal box office bomb, which is honestly depressing, because this movie's bloody great, and I'll tell you why. But yeah, but basically the film had like a budget of like $35 million. Like that was huge back in the 80s. But it only grossed about 8 million. So, you know, that's devastating for a film. But honestly, you know, it's kind of sad that happened. But the good thing is that it's because of that, because of the it didn't make a lot of money, it's become a cult classic recently. So yeah, it does kind of show you that films don't have to make a lot of money for, you know, for them to be good quality. So it shows you with this film. So yeah, so the film came out in the late 80s. It was directed by Terry Gilliam from Monty Python fame. Now, to be honest, I'm not really a fan. I'm not really a big Monty Python fan. I think my favourite is probably The Holy Grail, but and maybe Life of Brian, but I couldn't really get into the other stuff. You know, I found it a bit too bizarre. But this film is a family film, so I could definitely get behind that more. So Terry Gilliam's other stuff, other than the stuff to do with the Pythons, was Time Bandits. You know, which was the fantasy film with the dwarves in it, and then he did Brazil, which I actually watched Brazil before this movie, but I couldn't really make it. I couldn't really make it through the movie because I found it too bizarre and too disturbing and uncomfortable. But yeah, but when I looked up Baron Munchausen and I found out it was actually a family-friendly film, it really did interest me, so I watched it, and like I said, I loved it. So yeah, Terry Gilliam directed this, so clearly all the bizarre Monty Python-esque stuff is in this film, but, you know, without the inappropriate stuff. Well, there actually is a few innuendos in this film, but it doesn't go far. So yeah, I'm going to show you the DVD first, the cover. Now, there's actually been a few DVD releases of this film, you know, because it came out in the 80s. I think it was released in 2005, the other DVD, but I didn't like it because the cover looked really crappy. Like, it was like the Baron and Eric Idle's character and Uma Thurman, and it looked like it was done in Photoshop. Kind of a crappy looking cover. But yeah, and there was a Blu-ray edition, which was the 20th anniversary, and it came out in 2008. Now, that's the one I recommend if you like this film. I mean, if you watch this film and you like it, I'd recommend getting the Blu-ray, because it has all the DVD commentary and all the behind-the-scenes type stuff. But I didn't bother buying it because it was like 20 quid. So yeah, but I just got this one. And this DVD was released in 2011, and it has the theatrical cover. Now, this is the actual poster for the film. And honestly, guys, I just love this cover. Like, it's like, you know, it's been properly drawn, it's been like properly painted and stuff, and it does really give like a good image of the film, and that's really what a poster should do. So we've got the Baron's obviously a little blurb here mentioning it's a fantasy film. We got like the Baron's friends who he obviously finds on his journey. We'll talk about the story. We've got some of the characters here. We've got kind of like the town, the setting of the film here, and the blue sky and the curtains, because the beginning of this movie is set on a stage play. And we've got the flying machine that the Baron makes to fly to the moon, and instead of the balloon, it's actually the Baron's head himself with his sparkling teeth. So that's the cover's just bloody wacky, and it really does sum up the film. And we've got the little moon there as well, and some of the cast. The back of the DVD, we have we have a few pictures, screenshots from the film, not really that many. A little blurb, you can read that if you want, and we've got a picture of the actual the Baron's balloon, that he uses, to fly into the sky and to get to the moon and find his friend. So yeah, we're going to actually talk about the story of this film, guys, because it's honestly really good. Also rated PG because mild violence and innuendos. So there's some naughty bits in it as well, but yeah, we'll talk about it. So the story of the Adventures of Baron Munchausen. Now, if you didn't know, Baron Munchausen was actually a book series, or it might have just been one book, and it was released in the 17th century. And at the time, it was like the biggest book. It was like the biggest fantasy novel of all time. At the time, back then, centuries ago. And I've heard it was actually the second best-selling book, other than the freaking Bible. Like, people loved Baron Munchausen. And I believe there was a Baron Munchausen movie in the 40s as well. I haven't seen that one. And then Terry Gilliam made this one from the 80s. But yeah, so Baron Munchausen's a book character. I haven't read the books, but I think they're basically the same as the film. So yeah, but the storyline is basically that there's a town in, I'm not really sure if it's England or like some kind of foreign country, because it's kind of like that. But the town is basically being attacked by the Turks, the Turkish army, I guess, are attacking the town. So people, sorry about that, guys, I'm kind of messing with my trousers here, but yeah, I've got buttons on my shorts. But anyway, so the Turks are basically like have this town under siege, and people are kind of in fear, and it's the late 17th century, and it's known as the time of reason. So people are like, because obviously this army is attacking, people are a lot more serious, and they want to knuckle down, and they want to get away from it. But one day a theatre company is doing a play of Baron Munchausen, and suddenly the actual Baron himself, an old version of him, discovers the play and walks in and interrupts it and says, "This is a mockery of my stories." So the Baron goes on stage and starts telling it, how his stories about like the truth of what he used to go through in all of his silly adventures from the past. And obviously the audience don't care, because they don't care about fantasy anymore. They don't care about fun anymore. So as you can tell, he's telling like stories about how he met the Sultan in Turkey, and he wanted to cut the Baron's head off and stuff, and the adventures he had with his friends, his comrades. But people don't really care. So he's basically on the brink of death. The Turks are attacking, and he's going to die of old age. But a little girl called Sally, who's I forgot the actress who played her, but she's an adult now, but she was a 9-year-old girl in the film. But Sally actually is really interested in the Baron's story and actually helps him. So the Baron is on the brink of death. He's, "Oh, go away, leave me to die in peace." And she's like, "No, I want to hear the stories." So Death, the Grim Reaper, actually goes away from the Baron, and he kind of comes back to life. He turns younger because Sally actually helped him out. So that basically, him and her basically go on a huge adventure to find his friends, to basically take back the town, from the Turks, and, make everyone at peace again. So that's basically the gist of the plot. I'm not really going to go properly into it because I don't want to spoil the film, but it is like a really magical journey. And there's actually another reviewer on YouTube that actually gave a really great review of this film. If I don't remember his name, but I can link it in the description. But he does spoil the film a lot. But yeah, the one word I can like describe for this film is adventure. Well, it's got it in the title, but yeah, it really does feel like a journey. Like you're watching more than a film. You're watching a journey. Like the Baron and Sally, you know, they go all over the place. Like the Baron decides to build this big flying machine out of women's knickers, which is actually a really hilarious scene in the film. So they build a flying machine, and Sally ends up coming with him, and they go to the moon, and they find I forgot Eric Idle's character's name. But he's actually, you know, the Baron's friends are these men that have like powers. So Eric Idle, you know, from Monty Python fame, he's actually the world's fastest man, and he was on the Baron's team. He's also friends with like a dwarf who's got the world's most powerful breath. So he goes and, you know, blows everybody away. He's friends with a strong man, you know, a really huge. You know, well, a strong man, and he can lift up heavy objects, but he's really gentle. And he's friends with a man with impeccable eyesight who's actually like a sniper. So the Baron, you know, basically has to go on a journey to find his friends to, you know, defeat the Turks and the Sultan, because the Sultan made a bet with him, and if the Baron didn't get him a certain drink, he would cut off his head. But yeah, so examples of some of the scenes in this movie, obviously we have Sally, you know, bringing the Baron back to life and giving him a purpose to have adventures again. A really touching moment, I think. We have the bit where they fly to the moon, literally, which is a really bizarre part of the film, but I really loved it. And we actually meet the king and queen of the moon. I'm not sure who the queen's played by, but the king is actually played by the late Robin Williams, who's actually uncredited in the film because they got him really late into the production. So they go to the moon, they go into an interdimensional portal, and they basically go into an underground fire world, but there's also like a beautiful heavenly fountain which is actually occupied by Venus. You know, the goddess Venus, who's played by Uma Thurman, who was actually really young in this movie. It was like her first ever role. And obviously we have the Baron, who's played by the late John Neville. Now, John Neville hasn't really been in a lot of films, so this is his most well-known film, because he took a break from acting, but wow, the Baron is really great in this movie. But yeah, we'll go to the characters after. So there's a couple set pieces, like, you know, we have the Baron actually in Turkey. There's some really like beautiful locations, like the desert and stuff, and the town's really lovely, and you know, you can see there's tons of what do you call them, like background people, I guess. Well, yeah, people in the background, but yeah, but tons of care was put into this film, and you know, the budget, you can really tell. Like, even though I've heard that behind the scenes the film was a disaster to make, like, you know, there was a lot of like practical effects, like cannons being fired off and animals in the background, you know, like elephants and stuff. So there was a lot of like, you know, it was kind of dangerous, to be honest. And the little girl who plays Sally said it was quite a traumatic experience for her. But even then, with all this crap going on behind the scenes, you can't tell in the actual film because it came out brilliant in the end. So when the production is just a marvel to look at, you know, considering that it came out in the 80s, so this was the time before everything was like CGI, so there's practical effects all over the place. And the film is very like, you know, 18th century science fiction, you know, like not a lot of technology, but you know, the imagery of what they thought the future was going to look like back then. So yeah, and it's very like the bit where they're in the theatre with the stage and the curtains and stuff, it's very reminiscent of paintings from the 18th century. Honestly, really beautiful. The acting in this movie is great. Obviously, we have John Neville as Baron Munchausen himself. He's a really like big aristocratic type man, you know, oh yes, you know, prim and proper. But you know, he's really a silly old man. You know, he bangs on about these adventures, and half of the time he lies a lot of the time. So there is quite a sad scene in the movie which did make me kind of tear up. But in the end, it was just the Baron lying, and it actually cuts to him talking, like telling the story while he's standing on stage. So yeah, the Baron's a great character. You know, the Baron's friends, you know, like Eric Idle and the rest of the cast, the dwarf man and everything, they were all great and really funny. I will have to say though, one of my complaints about the film is they don't have a lot of character development. They're more just those characters with them traits. But it doesn't really matter because they managed to do enough interesting stuff in the screen time. Uma Thurman as Venus, it was really interesting seeing her, her first ever proper role in a film. In a big screen film, because it was quite a blockbusterish film, this one. Oliver Reed plays the fire god. He's like a really angry, haggard looking man. He's got a big beard. Well, Hagrid, I should say, from Harry Potter. But yeah, he's like an angry man with a beard. And he I can't remember. He calls Venus, he insults her, and she gets really offended because there's a scene in the movie where she's actually waltzing with the Baron, and they're flying in the sky and waltzing. It's actually a really beautiful scene, but he gets really jealous. So yeah, Oliver Reed is also died now, rest in peace. Robin Williams is insane as the Moon God. Sally really does play her role well. I mean she's a good character because she's the curious little girl that wants to hear about the Baron's adventures. I thought she was really cute in the movie, really sweet. Who else? But yeah, the Baron's friends, everybody. Even the Sultan is actually a really good villain, and there is another villain in the film who's kind of like a bureaucratic figure. He's like a really stiff, uptight man. He doesn't really want to have fun and stuff. And he really dislikes the Baron, and he works with the Sultan. I can't remember the actor's name, but he was a really good character. So yeah, the actors were great in this movie. The story really does feel adventurous, and honestly, this movie is the type of film that you can put on in an afternoon where you're kind of bored, but you can just put this movie on and be taken to another world. So yeah, and I love movies like that. The films that just stick with you, where you remember every scene, and the story does really get to you. The story really does impact you. Because this film, as funny as it is, and breathtaking in ways, it is emotional at parts as well. But yeah, I won't spoil too much of the film, guys. But overall, this movie is fantastic. It's underrated. It's really sad how barely anybody knows this film. Terry Gilliam does have other movies which are more popular, but I think this is his best because of the sheer adventure and whimsy, the whimsicalness of this film, and it's just fantastic. So yeah, and the set designs are gorgeous. Now this film was a box office bomb, but the thing was, it actually says on the DVD here, it got 4 Oscars for the art direction. So I think it won the 1989 Oscar for the costume designs, because everybody in this movie wears an 18th century look. So yeah, but oh yeah, another thing as well, the action scenes are really great because they're very reminiscent of excuse me guys, Pirates of the Caribbean. Well, I should say the first one, because I love the first Pirates movie, but after the second one was pretty good, Dead Man's Chest, but after that, the films were just too bloody convoluted and were just made for money. They didn't even try anymore. But yeah, this film is very reminiscent to the first Pirates of the Caribbean. We have cannons firing off, and we have soldiers with with pikes and swords, and there's animals in the film like elephants, and it just really is an action-packed movie as well at the same time. But yeah, so I will have to say, guys, though, if you're not into bizarre type films or movies with British type humour, I think you should stay away from this one. But other than that, it's fantastic. I actually didn't show the DVD, but yeah, there's the DVD. It's kind of a bit plain, to be honest, and it didn't come with a manual, but I did get it from eBay brand new, so it works fine. I would recommend getting this DVD if you just want to watch the film itself, because the only special features on it are the trailer, the cinematic trailer, and the filmographies of some of the actors. But to be honest, you could just look up their filmographies on IMDb, but it's there for you anyway if you want to buy it, if you want to watch the film. If you enjoy the film, I would recommend getting the Blu-ray if you want to see all the behind the scenes of the film. But another issue is that this film isn't on Netflix. I mean, what the heck, guys? Put it on there. More people need to bloody see this film, because it's fantastic. But anyways, that's pretty much it, guys. The Adventures of Baron Munchausen would get a solid 9 out of 10 for me. Probably not 9.5, but just for the sheer adventure and fun and whimsicalness of this film, it's really wholesome, and it touched my heart, this movie. So that's basically it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. I won't be. I don't think I'll be doing rant videos as much now because it's kind of a dead. It's kind of a dead genre on YouTube. But I do actually like to review good films like this rather than crappy movies. But yeah. And the next review will be of an anime called Fooly Cooly, or FLCL. A really bizarre anime, but it's insane. But it's worth talking about. And I actually do have it on Blu-ray that I got from Comic-Con. So yeah, but that's basically it, guys. Baron Munchausen, check it out. I wanted to buy this film for ages, and I finally got it on from eBay. So yeah, that's basically it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.